Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store.
And we thank them for their support. Greetings, Jawheads. It's October, and we're covering horror. Nothing new. But this week, we are covering gore. Some visceral descriptions will be thrown about, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. Chances are, if you listen to this show, that sort of thing won't bother you. But just so you know, gore ahead. Listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye, the movie guy. And this week on Cinemajaw, Matt, well, why don't we just sever our hands, get some blood all over the area here as we cover our top 5 goriest films of all time.
That's a segue. I've listened to quite a few of your openings, and that's a good one. That's like, just open up an artery. You know, let it spurt across the room.
I love when you get one of those bloody scenes where it's just gushing all over. That's gore. That's what we're talking about this week here. Our goriest movies. Matt, you're a fan of these.
I love a good splatter fest. Who doesn't? I want to ask you a quick question, Ryan. Have you ever had a really gory injury, like a real gusher? Has that ever happened to you?
Never. No. I'm one of these guys that's actually almost afraid to see blood. I cut myself so few times that when I do, heavens forbid, I'm chopping up a red pepper and I slice my finger, I almost go into shock when I see blood.
2 quick stories. I was trying to prove to a friend that a razor blade was not sharp, and to this day, I have changed my fingerprint because I sliced my finger down to the bone.
Brilliant.
Yep. I was about 10. And this was my brother was playing with a butterfly knife and trying to impress my sister, and he went to do a down motion with it, slipped out of his hand, went right into her foot between the toes, chunk through her foot into the floor. Blood splurted across the white walls.
Goodness.
And then she had to pull it out.
Yeah.
I heard the scream.
That is disgusting.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about, Jawheads.
Yes. Gory. Think gory and think of your favorite gory films. That's what we're talking about this week. And to cover such a list, Matt, we have a great guest who's going to be joining us.
Well, right. We would need an expert. And though we are not going to Hell's Gate this year, we do have the proprietor, owner of Hell's Gate and Statesville Haunted Prison. John Laflamboy will be joining us.
Can't wait to talk to John. Always a pleasure. But it is sad. It is sad that we are talking to him via Zoom, as it breaks the tradition of going out to Hell's Gate, like you said, Matt.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Besides that, we have a couple of reviews.
That's right, Ryan. We're going to be covering the new Sophia Coppola movie, her second collaboration with Bill Murray, On the Rocks. And Rye the Movie Guy has some highlights from the Chicago International Film Festival, which is happening right now, virtually in Chicago.
Yeah.
And via drive-ins as well.
It is. Can't wait to talk about that. Plus, in honor of John Laflamboy running haunted houses as a career, I figure we'll play house movie trivia. So think of movies with house in the title or having to do with a house.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do like House, that TV show with the doctor. Hugh Laurie. That's the guy's name. Yeah. That's not Hugh Laurie trivia?
It is not. It is house movie trivia. Damn it. Plus, it's October, and our theme this month is sci-fi horror. So let's start with the sci-fi horror fact.
All right, Ryan, here's the fact this week. Much of writer Drew Goddard's inspiration for the film Cabin in the Woods came from his own upbringing in Los Alamos, New Mexico, a place filled with scientists and coworkers all going about their business and living seemingly routine and ordinary lives, even though they were building nuclear weapons that could potentially destroy the entire world. He talks about this in the DVD special features, interviews, and commentary.
Interesting. They're going about their life, but they're creating bombs that could blow up the whole world. I see where he's going.
They still need to go to Popeyes for lunch, though. I don't know how weird that is.
I think it's strange.
Oh, well, okay.
Speaking of strange, what a segue that is, Matt.
That was a good one.
Our next guest is joining us. We were talking about this before we hit record. This may be his 10th year in a row. It's unbelievable. John Laflamboy, usually in full costume, in makeup, talking to us in Hell's Gate. Now he joins us via Zoom. John, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So let's talk about the disappointment right away. At what point in the year? Because if we could rewind all the way back to January, February, March, here comes the virus. A lot of people were postponing things, and everybody kept saying, well, by the fall, it's going to be good. So you had to think maybe you were in the clear for a while. When did it hit you that we're going to have to cancel this season?
There was never a time where I thought we were in the clear. I have family that lives in Italy, so I had a kind of a 2-week advance warning as to what was coming. And then when it did, come to the United States, the haunted house industry itself was in one of the very first things that got canceled. I know it's October now and people are talking about haunted houses being canceled now, but every year we have the haunted house and attraction show in St. Louis, the big Trans World show.
Sure.
And that was in the first weekend of cancellations. But then really when we got to April and May, it was quite clear. Indoor mass gatherings was the thing to avoid.
Yeah.
And it's not like we ever saw the virus get under control at any point in spring, summer. At no point did it look like the country had it under control with testing or contact tracing. So doing mass gatherings, indoor mass gatherings for a living with haunted houses, and what we do at Zombie Army, it was clear that we were just like our brothers and sisters in the theater world, from Broadway to the Chicago storefront theaters closed down. Our friends that work from the Metro to the United Center doing indoor concerts. We were in the same boat as the rest of our friends and our family. We were going to be closed down for a while. So we saw this coming very early. I wrote about it in April, that I felt that as a haunted house owner, the most responsible thing to do right now may be financially to figure out how we could be closed for 18 months. October came as no surprise.
I was holding out hope because part of what you do, at least at Hell's Gate, is the haunted forest, and which is obviously outdoors. Was there any consideration of keeping that part of it going?
Yeah, man. I mean, here's the
of
thing,
course,
like,
all of it, right?
As doom and gloom as all of this is. So of course, I had my optimistic, the part of me that just loves haunted houses and loves Halloween so much, going, I got a 1 to 5% chance here. What could I design for 500 people a night? Oh, okay, that's not going to work out. What can I design for 300 people a night? And it was just this constant kind of course, that creative part of my brain wants to do the show. Of course I do. But yeah, at the same time, you're talking about the forest and the graveyard, which, that is about 40% of our show. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't think opening 40% of our show was really going to do any justice to the show that we have. And honestly, the customers, I don't think that's what they would have wanted either, just that portion of it. So,
yeah. Well, here's a happier question. Every time we get together, which is once a year, you're backstage at one of your shows. There's actors coming to talk to you, people running around, banks of TVs with security camera footage rolling on them, and it's pandemonium backstage. You must be at least a little bit relaxed for the first time during October, right? I mean, are you at least getting that as a silver lining?
Yeah, I mean, there's okay, so sure, there's part of me that's like, all right, the last time I had an October that I wasn't, working every day and scaring people and or playing in the halls as an actor or leading the show as a director, it's been since, and I'm old. 1996 is the first time I really got into it. That was my college fundraiser, and I never looked back. Every October since then has been completely to haunted houses. I've been doing it ever since. So yeah, this is the first time since I was in college as a kid where I have an October, and what a kick in the ass that there's nothing to really go do because it's in the middle of a goddamn pandemic. Like, you know, oh, hey, I get this one chance to go do things in October, and it's all actually incredibly dangerous to my health. Don't go do it. It's so strange not having that connection. You know, seeing the kids that you don't see throughout the whole year, but we all come together in October. So what we're doing with Zombie Army is I've designed a bunch of mitigated events. These are socially distant, outdoor, Halloween-themed events for the cast and crew of Zombie Army since we are not open. We don't need a reason to celebrate the season. We just need a way to do it safely. So last weekend, we got together, big bonfire, maximum 50 people, all outdoors, all masked outdoors. And I designed a Halloween-themed scavenger hunt on 66 acres of woods, lakes, and trails. And the kids got the great experience of learning that, you know, during the show, they're real scary, you know, with all that production in the dark in the woods. But when there is no show and there are no lights, it's really scary in the woods at night. And so I designed these games to send them deeper in the woods and have to figure stuff out. This weekend, we're doing something we're calling the Zombie Hunt. And it's a giant scenario mission-based game where they play in teams of 5 and split up through the property. And there's zombies out there and there's marauders hunting them. And they have to find laser tag guns and ammo and health and kind of navigate through the paintball fields at Legacy Adventure Park to solve things and come up with a light signal device. I'm giving it away. I hope no one listens to this too soon. But yeah, so we're creating these adventures that are scary in nature, celebrating the whole, you know, fear of the season. But really the point is giving the kids somewhere to go, giving all the actors somewhere to see each other. And I'm no different than them. I mean, we did the scavenger hunt last weekend, and as soon as I had them all out there, I mean, my first instinct was like, oh shit, chase them. And boom, I was like a dog just finding ways to jump out and scare them, just to have fun with it all, you know, to just celebrate that, you know, all coming together and, you know, having a good time. So we're doing that all month long. I've got events going all month long. It's like running a new show every single weekend, but it's only for 50 people at a time that are cast and crew members of Zombie Army.
That's awesome, man. Keeping those reflexes sharp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mixing the real life, the pandemic that we've seen in the news every night here. What horror film would you say, wow, it's just like this? I think everybody has that go-to. For me, it was like 28 Days Later, you know. Oh my God, this is like 28 Days Later. What has this pandemic reminded you of comparing it to a horror film? Without
flinching, without hesitating, it's not of the right genre, but Idiocracy.
I think that might be of the right genre.
That one, like, oh God, that movie didn't hit that hard when I first saw it, but then I went back and rewatched it and I was like, I'm going with Idiocracy on that.
I like that.
I mean, there's some other great ones, Contagion, Outbreak, we could play with a bunch of those. But Idiocracy was the one that hit the hardest.
So normally you change X amount, you know, a third of your haunted house every year. Yes. Skipping a season here, what can we expect? 50-60% of the house by the time it reopens in 2021?
Yeah, you know, it was already in our plans to be expanding our outdoor areas. Matt mentioned them earlier. It was already in our design and our budgets to be building giant outdoor sets. Like I'm a big nerd about building the cabin from Evil Dead. I want to build a miniature replica of it. Like I can't do all the rooms, but the main room, front porch, like really want to build that out in the woods because I'm a nerd and I want to do that. And
the trap door. Please tell me you have the trap door.
Yes, of course I got to have a trap door. Yeah, it's the feature point and the fireplace, you know. So yeah, I've been looking at doing stuff like that. And that is one thing about having all this time in October is I'm really exposed to a lot of it's a pandemic and it's October. So every horror Halloween marathon is running. So I am having fun, you know, watching a lot of horror movies that I don't usually get time to watch. I'm going to have a lot of those moments throughout the next several months, definitely through the rest of October, where I have filled my design wall and I have spent the budget for the next 5 years twice over already with what I want to do for next year. So taking a year off, it just makes you,
Antsy.
I mean, it's it's an unnatural instinct, and it's not reasonable to want to be like twice as much next year. Because we're not doing it this year. I can't wait to unleash some new rooms out in the woods, because I really have enjoyed the expansion that we've done out at Hell's Gate, bringing the audience deeper and deeper into the forest.
Well,
making them take that physical journey. And the more I think I can advance that in the storyline and advance that in the customer experience of physically having to go through these things in the woods. There's caves I want to create. There are tunnels I want you to crawl through. There's caskets going into shallow graves that I want you to have to get on your belly and crawl through. There are things I want you to have to do out in the woods at night. And yes, I spend a lot of time now thinking about it, since we're not open this October. But there's gonna be a lot of that next year, kids.
Oh boy, can't wait.
John, we've been throwing this question around. We did it last week, where we throw out 3 movies, and it's sort of like the Kiss, Marry, Kill game.
Okay.
It's Cinemajaw modified here. So it's Keep, Destroy, and Spielberg remake. So it's just that. You keep one movie, you got to destroy one movie, and a third movie, Steven Spielberg has to make a remake of it, and that's all that's left of it. Here's your 3 movies. We're going with 3 classic slashers. The original Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street. Keep one, destroy one, and Spielberg has to remake one.
Man, that's tough. I mean, I say Halloween's got to stay exactly the way it is. I know it's been played with before, but it's just perfect. Friday the 13th, sorry, never really been a fan. So if I'm going to get rid of one, I'm getting rid of that one. And just because I am always a fan of Robert Englund, I'd love to see Spielberg do something crazy with that and remake that, but using Robert Englund with Nightmare,
I actually agree with John's pick. I have to keep Halloween. It's the best of the 3. And I'm right with you. I think if you're looking at making Spielberg remake one of the movies, I think he'd have the best with the material of Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yes, I'm doing the same. I'm destroying
right on
the 13th.
Man. You know,
bye, Jason.
I hate to be boring here, and I love Jason Voorhees, but I think I agree also. I'm keeping Halloween. It's a freaking masterpiece. Losing the original Friday the 13th, because actually it wasn't even Jason, it was his mom. And I'm going to let Spielberg remake Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course put Tom Hanks in as Freddy Krueger.
Oh, that's a good one. Thanks for that one. Thanks for
the
that
Tom
one.
Hanks joke. I love it.
Yeah.
John, where should we guide the jawheads that want to find out more about Hell's Gate, the behind-the-scenes stuff? Where should we guide them online?
You know, I'm a big fan of making content, so I have tons and tons of my little mini short horrors on hellsgate.com. And you could catch up on a lot of the Hell's Gate videos we have, but also daysoftheLivingDead.com always has all of our past seasons. And I know a lot of kids out there talking about just going through and binging the past seasons of the days where we used to party in giant gatherings and host huge events. So a lot of kids are kind of reliving those seasons. We've got, 8 seasons out there. There's a lot of fun stuff to see. So I'd say go there. Go to Days of Living Dead. Check out some old stuff. Binge some of it. And hellsgate.com is always going to have a lot of our storytelling that is just living there forever.
Nice. And we'll put links for the Jawheads in the show notes as well. Bill Murray reunites with Sophia Coppola for the first time since Lost in Translation, and fanboys everywhere lost their minds at the news, Ryan. This time around, Murray plays a womanizing father to Rashida Jones, who's having some trouble in her marriage. Can the duo sleuth it out, save the marriage, and spend some quality time in the process? Ryan and I headed to Apple TV Plus to check it out.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, kiddo. Oh my gosh, do you look beautiful. Cliff, how's your mom's hip?
Good, thanks.
Good. He thinks you're my girlfriend.
Bryce.
Been busy?
Yeah. Dean's traveling with clients all the time, and I'm just the buzzkill waiting to schedule things. I'm so stuck.
So Dean's going away a lot, huh? On business trips?
Dad,
Raise your hand if that sounds fishy.
He's not like you. He's a good guy, a great dad.
Sure, it's nature. Males are forced to fight, to dominate, and to impregnate all females.
Maybe he's just not interested in me anymore.
Impossible. A woman is at her most beautiful between the ages of 35 and 39.
Great, so I have many months left.
Really?
I'm just going to come right out with it, guys. This movie is a hot mess, and I cannot believe that Coppola wrote and directed this hunk of 2020 flotsam, and Bill Murray agreed to play the jetsam. The characters may as well have been cardboard cutouts, because that's about as much personality as they had on screen. Just like the Lori Lightfoot cutout in John's office there. Murray's delivery was about as good as it could have been with the material, but even his affable goofballism was not enough to make this misogynist prick of a narcissistic rich asshole likable. And we have to talk about Marlon Wayans. The last time we saw him in a serious role was way back in 2000 in Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream. And he nailed it. Here, the acting is almost embarrassing. It's as if they filmed the rehearsal and went ahead and used those takes in the final movie. I'll give you one example. His character is constantly working, I'm saying that in air quotes, spouting fake buzzword work jargon and pretending to type. My 6-year-old pretends to type more convincingly than he does in this movie. Hey, Marlon, George Washington's teeth called and they want their wooden performance back. Last thing, this movie is about a marriage that's on the rocks, which I guess is also a metaphor for the father's freewheeling 2-martini lunch lifestyle, but no chemistry exists in any of the relationships in the entire film. The only thing that was on the rocks here were my dashed hopes. I can't express enough how much I wanted to forgive this movie. I searched for something to like in every scene, and there were a few moments, mostly from Bill Murray, where I actually smiled a little bit. But each time the wind quickly left the sails and the movie went adrift again. I'm just not sure what Sophia Coppola was thinking here. So Ryan, do you agree? Was this On the Rocks a pile of gravel?
You know, I want so badly to come out of here, fire up like a cannon, and completely take the opposite view as you here, Matt. But I can't. I can't get behind this film the way I would want to. Do I think it's a hot pile the way you're describing it? I wouldn't go that far, but this is not
Really?
a quality film like I was hoping for either. I listed as minor Coppola, minor Murray. It never soars. It never even takes flight, really. It just sort of...
It barely walks.
Yeah, it just sort of crawls from the start all the way to the finish. It's not that funny in the scenes that are supposed to be humorous.
Oh, you're really selling it.
Never felt attached to the characters enough to care on the emotional level either. So it's just minor. I don't think it's terrible. It's not a movie that I would think people would watch and turn away and say, oh my God, it's the worst movie of the year. No. But those two having worked on Lost in Translation and everybody expecting something grand and great as that are going to be disappointed.
Listen, it is that bad because it's held to a higher standard. This is Sophia Coppola. And if she's doing a daddy movie, we've got to expect notes of Francis Ford Coppola in the character. And there's absolutely none of that. Okay. And Bill Murray, he's like a god, right? His face graces the t-shirts of millions and with absolutely nothing else on the shirt, just his face. And he sucks in this. Like his character is just totally unlikable. And like I said, I think he does his best with it, but it's just not enough to save that terrible, terrible script.
They didn't give him enough scenarios to be Bill Murray in, right? The one time we get to see the Bill Murray that we all love is this great scene where him and Rashida Jones, his daughter, are going to actually go and spy on her husband. And of course, he rents this ridiculous red car.
Yeah.
That as soon as they start it up, it's pretty funny. And he's driving around. They're supposed to be incognito. Well, they end up getting pulled over by the cops. And I think what we see happen in this scene is exactly what would happen if Bill Murray actually got pulled over by the cops in real life. They would start to talk and it would be like, oh my God, you're Bill Murray. In this case, they recognize him as somebody else. But the way Bill Murray acts in that scene is exactly how I think he would be in real life. And next thing you know, you'd have the cops pushing your car to get it started. I think that's what would happen with Bill Murray.
That was the scene that made me smile. So there you go. One scene.
Well, also Bill Murray is a grandpa, right? Because Rashida Jones has kids. And I thought, God, what a great thing this would be if Bill Murray was somebody's grandpa, you know? I like those scenes with him and the granddaughters.
Is he not somebody's grandfather?
I'm sure that he is.
Yeah.
But in this movie, we
Can
get
we throw that in the jaw box, Ryan, and find out?
Throw it in the jaw box.
I'm curious what you think saved this movie from being a complete pile of shit.
Well, it's funny because being such a fan of Lost in Translation, I did like some nice touches and almost nods to their collaboration in that film. You see it here again when they're in any type of driving scenes in the car, filmed very much the same way she sort of captured Tokyo. She tries to do it with New York here.
There's some good New York scenes, I guess.
Yeah. And we're not talking enough about Rashida Jones's character. And I know Bill Murray, and I wrote it down in my notes, actually does get top billing. But the star of the movie, the main character of the movie is Rashida Jones. And I think it's sort of a midlife crisis, probably a scenario that a lot of people find themselves in when they're in a long-term relationship, married for many years, where all of a sudden you start to have those fears that the marriage isn't working. And for all types of different reasons, I think this movie just splattered it on the wall in front of us a little too heavy so that it didn't seem authentic enough. But I think there are scenarios where people do have these fears. I like that angle. I thought that was interesting.
I guess. But listen, we also have to talk about what I can only call misogyny of the film, right? Because Rashida Jones is acting pretty good, but her character sucks. She's barely even fleshed out at all. Her job as a writer, we never learn what she's writing about or why. All of the relationships, I don't even believe she's in love with her husband at all or likes her kids. We see her in line at the school dropping off her kids day after day, and she has this conversation with this woman that she clearly just is trapped with and doesn't like. That's never resolved. Like, there's all these things left hanging. Did she act well? Yeah, she was better than Marlon Wayans, that's for sure. Bill Murray is just kind of floating through the film like Jeff Lebowski. I mean, the character, not the actor Jeff Bridges. And not in a good way. He doesn't connect. Nothing connects. The movie is just like poorly written. It's kind of anti-woman because at the end, she just goes back to being, I don't know. It didn't seem like a resolution that gave her any additional power or resolved anything. Not that I always need that to be the case, but it just feels really weird coming in 2020 from Sophia Coppola. Am I wrong on that?
No, I see where you're coming from. And I even think that Coppola had to sort of dance around the issue of us somehow liking Bill Murray when you're exactly have sort of described him. He's not a likable character by just his actions. This is a guy that clearly had no interest in keeping the relationship with Rashida Jones's mother, when they were married. It alludes to that he cheated on her.
No, it spells it out pretty well.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, how are we supposed to really like this character?
Right.
So it comes down to this part where Bill Murray is in the restaurant and he goes into this long story about how early man fell in love with women and the way women look. And somehow out of that conversation, we're supposed to sort of forgive this character's actions. I don't think everybody's going to. Clearly you didn't.
No, I mean, like, listen, when I was a teenage boy, of course I acted like Bill Murray's character does in this movie, but I grew up and it's like, okay, we're supposed to believe that his character never grew up, but the movie is supposed to have some sort of arc. Maybe he learned something, but he doesn't. At the end of the movie, he basically is just resolute in his narcissism. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
John, you were probably excited to see this movie when you heard Bill Murray and Sophia Coppola.
I've been waiting to jump in here. If you could just either one of you direct me, where can I go to give someone money to see this movie? Like, I can't wait any longer. After hearing both of these reviews, I can't wait to pay to watch this movie.
Well, yes. I'm glad I saved you from giving this your money, because probably a lot of people would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm out. I'll wait till that's free. Thanks, guys.
Matt, you got a movie poster quote for us?
Yeah. Even Bill Murray couldn't save this movie.
I went with Marlon Wayans like you've never seen before.
I don't know if I get that. How many Jaws are you giving this?
I was going 2.5 Jaws. 2.5
Wow.
Jaws.
That's incredibly generous. I'm going 1.5 Jaws. I do think this is one of the worst movies I've seen this year. And because I was expecting so much, it stung that much more.
Wow. If you're like John and you can't wait to see this movie, it is playing in select theaters right now, and it'll be on Apple TV Plus at the end of this month. So Jawheads, when you do see it and you got an opinion on it, write us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com, or you can always shoot us a tweet @cinemajaw. Let us know what you thought of the film. No gory scenes in this one, Matt, but because it's October and because we have horror master himself, John Laflamboy, with us, that's our topic. John, you're getting us started. Was it a tough list to narrow down to 5?
Because I've been on this show for several years, I feel like I apologize a lot to you guys for my depth of horror movie knowledge. And when I got to gory films, I was like, I guess I really don't seek out gory films a lot, do I? So no, it was, I wanted to make sure I had movies on there that affected me. But I doubt my top 5 list is going to be a listener's top 5 list. They are just the top 5 most influential gory movies to me.
Well, that's saying something, you know?
It is. What do you got?
Yeah, I would say some of these movies have been, have influenced specific things I've done, either as a film director or a haunted house designer. So yeah, I would definitely say there are threads of some of this stuff in what I do.
What do you got sitting at number 5?
Disgusting threads. At number 5, and this was, I had the pleasure of meeting the director, Adam Green, at a film festival and got to see Hatchet and watched Hatchet. And boy, oh boy, I was a fan of how much they celebrated the kills. They celebrated the gore. They celebrated the kind of iconic things that we've seen in so many horror movies before. But they would come with like a full bag of creativity and just celebrate every one of those kills in Hatchet. I got to see it on the big screen and thoroughly enjoyed. And I really enjoyed the celebration of, that kind of horror gore.
This really makes me excited because every fall I write down a set number of films that I'm going to see that I have not seen. Hatchet is on that list already.
Oh, really?
I have not seen it, so I'm glad it's getting endorsed here by John Laflamboy. I love it. I will tackle it in the next 2 weeks.
One of my favorites.
I'm in the same boat. I have to catch up with Hatchet. Jesus. I know it's a blind spot for me,
Both of you guys haven't seen Hatchet. Oh, my God. Okay, this is like a strange position for me to be in, where I have seen a horror movie that neither of you have seen. Yes.
What year? That's pretty. it's fairly recent.
Yeah. It's 2000. God, I want to say 2005 might have been the first Hatchet. There were 3, I believe.
We'll find out. Ryan's got it in the jaw box.
Because I think Hatchet 3 premiered at the Chicago Fright Fest Film Festival, which only had 1 year.
Nice. Okay.
But
that
had
narrows
a great
it down.
showing. But it had a great showing.
All right. That swings it over to me for my number 5. And I'm going with 1984. As it turns out, I also met the director of this film. I met him at C2E2. And Rye the Movie Guy was standing right next to me when I said, holy crap, that's Lloyd Kaufman. And he said, who?
So true. So true.
The Toxic Avenger. At number 5. This movie, it changed things. There's film before the Toxic Avenger and after. And I know there was plenty of Grindhouse and everything else, but I don't think that anything sort of created this whole new, like, grimy punk rock flavor of independent filmmaking as well as Trauma did, and still does to this day. There's so many great gore effects in the movie, but the one that really stands out for me the most is when the kid gets his head run over by the car. Do you remember this part, John?
I mean, I saw this when I was a little kid.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember watching it again.
It's been a while, but just go on YouTube.
But I just remember it being incredibly squishy.
It's very squishy.
I remember a lot of stuff happened. Yeah.
Right.
I remember, like, as a kid, just an impossible amount of squishy happens in that movie.
Well said, actually. Squishy is the word for it. But the head running over scene cracks like a watermelon. It's very gory. Brain splash, eyeball pops out. The effect at the time was pretty darn convincing. And it to this day sort of stuck in my brain. Go on YouTube and watch it. It's worth it. It's a great effect. What do you got sitting there at number 5, Ryan?
My number 5 came out in 2018. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. Maybe John has. It's a war movie / horror movie / zombie movie. Number 5, I got Overlord.
No.
Overlord, yeah, like crank it up, let's party.
Yes.
Yeah, Overlord.
Overlord, Matt, is about American D-Day parachuters who go into Germany. They go into a village, and below, I believe it's a church, there turns out to be this weird military operation going on that basically is creating zombies. So it's this genre mashup of a film. Just the way these guys transform when they do turn into zombies is gory enough. Like the look, this guy's head basically completely snaps back. He's got these bones coming out of his like skin up on his shoulders. A lot of heads get smashed in by butts of guns. I mean, it's just gore fest extraordinaire. And the more the movie goes on and the zombies appear, the more and more it gets. Very gory, over the top fun. I was a fan of Overlord. I like this one.
It just occurred.
It's a party.
I should put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode for everybody, because we're gonna go into these gore effects pretty deeply.
Yeah.
The snapping of bone.
Oh,
That's an Overlord.
That stuff always
That's
gets
an
me.
Overlord thing just going through the whole movie is that snapping of bone.
Love it.
That was
Right
my
on.
number 5, Overlord. What do we got sitting at 4, John?
Number 4, I went back to what was the first thing that really kind of like disturbed me as a kid. The first movie I saw that really kind of blew my mind as a kid, and I should not have seen it. I mean, maybe I was 7 or 8. So I'd like to say, just, straight to camera, Nicola, your mother was wrong to show us this movie, and it messed us up for too long. But John Carpenter's The Thing. What they did to that dog ruined me as a kid. I couldn't look at a Malamute or a Husky the same way after that. So yeah, that movie got me good. John Carpenter's The Thing. Some great gore, great terrifying things, and it ruined things that up until that point was friendly to me. I used to really like Huskies. No longer.
It's so amazing the effects they had. It almost feels like it should have been like a Cronenberg kind of thing, Like if you had told me those two had collaborated, I would be like, oh, that makes sense.
The whipping of when they had the whipping going on as the dog came apart, just absolutely. And I mean, some of the most groundbreaking special effects for the time.
Oh yeah,
that movie laid the groundwork for special effects in so many movies afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That gore was premium gore.
Guys, speaking of premium gore, I'm actually curious if John has seen this movie. I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that Ryan has not. Came out in 1991. It's fair to call it a kung fu movie, but it's so over the top. It's something else altogether. Ricky-O, the story of Ricky. Have you guys seen this?
I do
never
not
even
think
heard of
I've
it,
seen this, but I'm excited. You got me.
The plot's so asinine, it's almost not worth really describing, but basically somebody's sent to prison, this guy Ricky, and his lover is murdered, and he goes on a revenge rampage, and his rage just makes him so super strong and hard to kill that when he punches straight through people, and the blood just goes everywhere. There's somebody gets killed very slowly in a meat grinder, faces get ripped off, eyeballs shoot out of the sockets. Oh, there's a really great eye injury. He trips somebody and he falls on a board with nails sticking out. He doesn't die either. He gets up and he's got his hand, and the thing is going through his hand into his eye. Listen, another one where you just go on YouTube and look up Ricky-O. It's RIKI-O, the story of Ricky. And for some reason, the second time they write Ricky, it's spelled RICKY. I don't know why.
Every time you say the name, I laugh.
It's ridiculous.
I can't not laugh. Ricky-O, the story of Ricky.
This movie is something else. If you talk to aficionados, they know what I'm talking about. It's
All right.
It's a classic, cult classic.
Checking that out.
My number 4 pick is a film actually that came out this year in 2020, Matt.
Ooh.
And it's not necessarily a horror film as much as I would describe it as a gory thriller. And believe it or not, it stars Kevin James. Things get weirder.
QB Halloween?
No, it's a small film entitled Becky. Kevin James plays a skinhead, Nazi skinhead, who is looking for a key in this remote house where a family is staying, and the family is the girl is played by Lulu Wilson. Her dad is played by Joel McHale.
Wow, that's a weird cast.
Very strange. The best way to describe this is an adult, gory version of Home Alone. So the premise is that the family is captured, but Lulu Wilson is like a teenage girl who was out in the woods when the skinheads came in and abducted the family and are trying to figure out where this key in the house is. And she doesn't come in, and this teenage girl doesn't come in and just give herself up. Instead, she starts planting like traps a la the Home Alone element, but these are turned into very gory situations. Eyeballs are plucked out of people's eye sockets.
That seems to be a theme.
Yep, nails in a board right into the side of the head. You more or less get a whole gamut of gory, gross injuries to these guys who are doing the abducting. Hidden gem here, Becky, came out earlier this year.
I'm in. I am sold.
Yeah.
That sounds
I'm putting
amazing.
it top of my list for this week. Thank you.
There you go. That was my number 4. Into our 3s we go.
Into our 3s, that's me, huh? Well, I'm gonna go back old school with Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, I mean, lots of great zombie movies, right? And Romero, of course, a lot to choose from. But the reason I like Dawn of the Dead, and the reason that it hits me with high gore effect, and what I'm looking at is premium gore, is because of what it did with Tom Savini's career. And thus what it did with a lot of special effects artists' career. I was privy to see a lot of the behind the scenes of this film, a lot of work on a documentary that was being done about George Romero, and just how Tom Savini himself talked about coming up with these kills on the fly. Well, they've got a shoot day and they're trying to get all these pages done. And at the same time, Tom Savini's like, I wonder what I could do with this screwdriver. Hey, you, Ed, come here. We're going to figure out how to stick it in your head. And that there was this constant kind of appreciation for just pushing the limits of gore and having fun with it. The whole pregnancy baby thing, that was a little too much for me. But I enjoyed the sport of pushing that line of gore in Dawn of the Dead.
Is Dawn the one in the mall?
Yeah.
Nice pick.
Dawn was more fun. Day of the Dead it just was too much of a downer for me. Good scares, great special effects, but Dawn of the Dead felt more like a party to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Here is my number 3, gents. This, here's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily think about this as a gore movie, but it has one of the most amazing gore effects that I've ever seen. In fact, I don't know if it's quite ever been topped. I'm talking about 2001. The movie is Hannibal. And the scene in particular, I mean, there's a bunch of pretty gory stuff in there, like people getting fed to pigs, a guy who eats his own face, played by Gary Oldman, I believe. And his appearance is monstrous enough. And then you learn the story, and it's chilling. But when Ray Liotta is sat at the table
Yeah.
and Hannibal Lecter comes in and just pops the top of his head off like it's the lid of a chafing dish, right? Exposing his brain. And Liotta's character is still alive, right? He takes just a little piece of the brain. First, he peels back the membrane off, right? And then
gross.
It's so gross, and he takes just a little scoop of the brain out and throws it into a frying pan with some butter and some like chives and garlic, and he feeds it to Ray Liotta. Disgusting. It's disgusting. And oh my God, who's the actress who's playing Starling in the second film? Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Julianne Moore.
Yes.
Julianne Moore is like, her character starts to gag, so which kicks in like the audience, or at least my gag reflex as well. So I could barely stomach that scene the first time, so I had to rewatch it again and again, just that scene, to like sort of build up my tolerance for it, if you will. Messed me up. That one really got me.
Why? Why did you need to build up your tolerance for that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Things where people cook someone else's brain while they're actively aware of what's happening. I feed them. And there's very limited selection out there of such things.
Here's the thing: this movie was seen by everybody, right? Because the Silence of the Lambs is a masterpiece. It won the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
an amazing film. And this is the sequel. It's Anthony Hopkins returns as Hannibal Lecter. Everybody and their mom saw this movie, and everybody and their mom watched Ray Liotta eat his own brain.
Yeah, you're right. That was gross. I remember.
Oh, good old Ray Liotta. Oh, good pick, man. Over to my number 3. Maybe John's seen this one. I think it came out last year. It has a wrestler in it. It has to do with a haunted house. The wrestler is CM Punk. The movie is The Girl on the Third Floor.
No.
Yeah.
Smaller movie came out.
I thought you were
last
making
year.
that up as you went along. I didn't think any of that was real.
I'm a big CM Punk fan, though. I got to check this one out.
So
I
CM
thought this was an improv skit, but go on.
Yes, and
CM Punk plays a guy. He's married. He's starting a family, and he goes to stay at this house that is all dilapidated, and he's going to fix the house up
okay.
before his family moves in. So it's just him, but the house has sort of a personality, and it's like leaking, oozing might even be a better word, oozing like a strange liquid. And it turns out that this house back in the day was an old brothel, and some really weird and strange things happened inside this brothel.
Sex?
Like kinky
Oh,
sex? Yeah, okay.
But weird sex, John. You know, I mean, you got like costumes, you know, all
weird
kinds of
sex.
strange
Got
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
There's another kind? I mean,
But what makes it work here, and I think what you guys would like, it's a movie that goes back to old practical effects inside the house. So when they're drywalling a portion of the house and the way it looks, it's creepy and dingy and it's real. It's no CGI house, no odd monsters come flying out of the basement. Everything is done in camera.
but where's the gore, Rye?
There's a ton of gore in the movie, and it's
In the
like
drywall?
gross out type stuff going on in the house. Once you guys would take the trip with The Girl on the Third Floor, you would realize it fits this category.
Cool.
Now I'm intrigued because you didn't describe the gore.
Yeah, he didn't tell us nothing.
No, check it out. It's
He told
available
us
to
about
stream on Netflix.
drywalling.
Yeah.
There's a
that's-
drywall scene in it.
Ooh.
Yes. Into our twos we go. What do you got sitting there, John?
This movie makes a lot of my lists. I probably brought it up several times, but it is absolutely just one of my favorite films, period, let alone horror. Slither.
Yes.
The gore in Slither, I mean, James Gunn's Slither is this beautiful blend of comedy and relentless, gross, exponential gross factor. It just keeps getting worse. Like, it's the beautiful scene with the tub, and that's kind of the iconic scene of the disgusting little slugs coming at the bathtub, and everyone kind of slithers and does that. But man, Michael Rooker just gets downright gross. It's one of the nastiest, grossest, goriest makeout scenes in all of movies is with Michael Rooker and that mangled face of his. And it just gets worse and worse until a girl is impregnated with all those slugs and just explodes. I mean, there's so much gore in it. It's so funny. The gore is grotesque and hilarious at the same time. And at no point do I think the over achievement of the gore takes away from the fact that it's also a good horror movie that is scary, that has actual good scares too. Man, I just thought it was a perfect blend of comedy, gore, and actual horror. I'm clearly a fan. Bit of trivia, which I thought this was fun, I found about Slither, is that in the opening scene, as they pan down the street, you see R.J. McCready Funeral Home. R.J. McCready was Kurt Russell's name in The Thing, my number 5 on the list. And Russell ended up working with James Gunn 11 years later in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's not mine. I didn't dig that up. I just read that today and found that to be interesting and shared it.
That is. He got to
That
meet
is
his hero.
interesting.
Yeah, after paying homage to him in his other movies.
I love
think it's really
Slither.
it's bending the universe. He was making that happen. How could
That's-
Kurt say no later?
That's how you do it, man. I've rewatched Slither about, I don't know, at least half a dozen times. I try to spin it every October. I've yet to watch it this year, and you've reminded me it's time. At my number 2, we talked about Cronenberg a moment ago when we were discussing The Thing, and I think that Carpenter is probably the undisputed living master of horror, right? But Cronenberg had something different. I would call him the master of body horror. I don't think anybody twisted the human form in more just disgusting, grotesque ways than David Cronenberg. And there's a bevy of films to to choose from of his. I mean, you got The Fly, of course, Videodrome, which is lesser seen, but twice as disgusting as The Fly. But I'm going with the one scene that I think everyone will know. I'm going with Scanners, based purely on the head exploding scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's a GIF, right? I mean GIF, GIF, not gift. It's also a gift, but it's a GIF. You've seen this head exploding a million times. People used to make this their MySpace avatar. It's been around that long, folks. I mean, it's just this wonderful effect that I think this is yet to be duplicated. This guy is just concentrating so hard that they're having this psychic duel. And it looks, honestly, it kind of looks like constipation a little bit. And he's just like, the blood is rushing to his head. And then all of a sudden, just pow, his whole head explodes. And it's like a balloon and blood flies all over and brains and eyeballs. I've watched it, just the head exploding, probably a million times. I don't even know how many times. They said they did it with fireworks, like an M80 inside of a plastic head, obviously. But it's really
so it wasn't a real head, is what you're saying?
Not a real head, but it's so hard. A lot of times when you see a gore effect, we were talking a few weeks ago about Poltergeist and the face peeling scene, which really got me as a child. But I rewatched it, and you could totally see the cut. I mean, you see where the actor switches for the dummy, right? If you rewatch the Scanner scene, it is seamless. You do not see the actor switch with the dummy. And the dummy was that good that it's a chef's kiss, beautiful gore.
Wow. Nice.
My number two. There's something above it. There's something.
I can't believe it. My number two is a film I just caught up with that got a lot of praise. People brought it up on the show before. 2016, the film is called The Void. This one has to do with some creepy happenings at a hospital. Basically, a cop sees a guy fleeing the woods, and he's in bad shape. The cop helps him, takes him to the hospital. And while the cop is there, all this weird stuff starts to happen. So there's all these cloaked people in this cult that come walking up to the hospital, trapping the people who are in the hospital already there inside. And it turns out that all this weird force inside the hospital is turning dead bodies into this tentacle weird-like creature. Again, all practical effects. So these monsters that these dead bodies turn into have part of the corpse incorporated into the monster with the tentacles coming out of the body.
Is it like a Lovecraft type thing?
Yes. And at one point they go into the morgue of the hospital, and you can only imagine now with all these tons of dead bodies and this force being able to turn these dead bodies into tentacle type creatures. The grossness of the monsters in the film make the entire thing. I mean, it's what you were talking about, John, where you're somewhat laughing in a way because it's so gross. It turns you off, but you almost giggle and laugh with it at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. And The Void's got a lot of it. That's my number two. The Void. Here it is. Cinemajaw, our number one picks. What do you got sitting there, John?
And before I release my number one pick, I want to give a special mention to the goriest thing I have seen in quite a long time. I watched last night, and I didn't know gore was our subject today until this morning because I don't look at Facebook Messenger clearly enough. The goriest thing I have seen in years on television was in last night's episode I watched of Lovecraft Country. I don't know if you guys are watching this.
No, I really want to.
Okay, well,
Jonathan
I
Majors.
don't want to ruin anything, but I'll tell you that the goriest thing I have seen, and anyone who's watched that is listening will understand what I mean, is also a sex scene. And it's the goriest thing I've seen in TV or film in years and years and years. And it's also somehow a touching, beautiful sex scene as well.
Wow.
So, and on that,
and touching, you've intrigued me.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, check it out, Lovecraft Country. Damn, it's good. But on that of gory and sexy, I also want to do a special mention for my top five. Two of my top fives were listed as pornographic films. Could not get an R rating because they were just too gory. So let's hear it for the pornos. They're pioneers. Dawn of the Dead and Hatchet, both of them. Dirty little porns. But my number one is Peter Jackson's Dead Alive. It is easily one of just my favorite movies to just throw on, have in the background. just for fun, just for giggles. And because it was a kind of gore movie that the first time I saw it, I was surprised by it. I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea. So when it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and the stakes of gore kept getting higher and higher, by the time the lawnmower came out,
yeah,
and they took the lawnmower to the room of people, I was just on my couch going, of course you do. Of course this is what you do with the lawnmower. Like at that point, I was a spectator just cheering on how far they could take the gore. And I read that in that scene, they were pumping 5 gallons of blood per second in the lawnmower scene.
Oh my God.
And that's, I mean, that's special. If you've ever worked with special effects before, I mean, that's basically just throwing a bucket of blood at someone in full facial force, because that's your second. So that's happening every second. 5 gallons a second in that scene. I applaud Peter Jackson for that movie, and it lives with me and gives me great joy every time I talk about it.
There's a part where he's trying to leave the room and he can't because he's slipping all the blood. And the half head, the zombies can be completely dismembered and they stay alive. Even parts of them will stay alive. So there's this half a head just from the like bridge of the nose up that's sliding around the floor like a hockey puck.
I have definitely the influences from when I had first seen that movie definitely live in my work, and boy oh boy, I wanted to see what 5 gallons of blood a second looked like, and we only got 15 5-gallon buckets in that one scene, but boy oh boy, did we see what that could do to a bunch of camera gear and lighting cable and the limitations of plastic drop cloths. We all learned that the hard way on a zombie army set, being inspired by Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
I've said this story before, but it's been years. When we started doing Cinemajaw, we each exchanged a film to sort of learn the other person's sensibilities. Ryan gave me In Bruges. I gave him Dead Alive.
Yeah.
Which was, truth be told, also my number one.
Nice.
My phone, it won't focus, but you can take my word for it. Since we discussed it, I'm going to throw in a quick substitute. All right. This is one that I wanted to get on the list. Cannibal Holocaust. Speaking of a movie that was banned and called X-rated, and I think it's still pretty disgusting and reviled around the world. But what makes it sort of stand out in the world of gore is the filmmakers were actually arrested when they were trying to leave the country. Not illicitly, they were just going somewhere, right? But they were arrested at the airport because the special effects were so convincing that the authorities thought it was an actual snuff film. Cannibal Holocaust is messed up and definitely belongs on this list. It was going to be an honorable.
Leaves it with my number one. Went with another small film. I think it's a Netflix. I know that's where I saw it, and I think it is a Netflix original. 2018. The director is Gareth Evans. He also directed The Raid and The Raid 2. My number one pick is Apostle. Dan Stevens plays Thomas Richardson, a man trying to get his sister back from an evil cult on a remote island. And this is in the early 1900s. And the reason this is gory, at least to me, is it has a lot to do with those old school torture devices come up into play big time. And I'll just give you one scene in the movie, which is this drill that it's got this drill bit and this old rusty claw that the drill bit goes through. And there's a guy that they shaved the top of his head.
Oh, no.
Wrapped down on this chair. And another guy has got to turn the drill, this big drill, with his hands as it slowly goes into the top of the guy's head. Oh my God, is it disgusting. And then later on, there's even more of these torture devices used. That kind of stuff for me is so gross, gets me to like turn away from the screen. I'm usually not that squeamish, but I am watching torture like that.
Well, just hearing you describe it, man. Oof. That doesn't sound appealing. But
I do recommend Apostle. It's a good one on Netflix. Any other honorable mentions before we go to break?
I got a couple. Real quick, RoboCop, right? Underrated as a gore movie, but it was pretty gory for its time. Hellraiser, of course, and one last one that we haven't talked about, Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
It's not thought of as a horror movie, but it's gory as hell. I mean, limbs are flying off. People are getting impaled by these bug creatures. So pretty surprisingly gory.
Nice. Yeah, pretty much all mine taken. Your next is a good horror film, Home Invasion, that's got some good bloody gory mess. And Green Room. Remember the punk movie?
Yeah.
You get those dogs chasing after people. There's some gore there.
Yeah.
And I had, as a honorable mention, I had House of a Thousand Corpses. Was not a movie I enjoyed. It was not a movie I liked, but the gore was vivid enough for me not to like it. So well done, Rob Zombie.
There we go. If we missed your favorite gory film and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, an update from the Chicago International Film Festival. Plus, John is taking Matt on in house movie trivia. Stick with us.
I love house music.
As we continue our month-long celebration of science fiction horror, we bring you this classic moment from Little Shop of Horrors, in which Audrey 2, the alien plant, tells Seymour to feed me.
Boy, here we go again. Come on, I haven't got much left. Just give me a few days to heal, okay? Then we'll start again on the left hand and...
me.
I beg your pardon?
Feed me.
Tui, you talked. You opened your trap, you thing, and you said...
Feed me, Carbon. Feed me now.
I can't.
I'm starving.
Look, maybe I can squeeze a little more out of this one.
More.
There isn't any more. What do you want me to do, slit my wrists? Oh, boy. Look, I got an idea. I'm gonna go down to Schmendrick's and pick you up some nice chopped sirloin.
Must be blood.
Tui, that's disgusting.
Must be fresh.
I don't want to hear this.
Feed me.
Does it have to be human?
Feed me.
Does it have to be mine?
Feed me.
Where am I supposed to get it?
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with John Laflamboy of Statesville Haunted Prison and Hell's Gate. Besides haunted houses, though, John, you also do some theater work, and I understand you're doing some fundraising for the theater. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm an ensemble member. Very proud to be an ensemble member of the Artistic Home. It's a Chicago storefront theater. And, you know, of course, like all theaters, we're shut down. Same as the haunted house, of course. And we, you know, came upon our our challenge of how we're going to raise money to keep the lights on during a pandemic. And where most of our fundraisers are always about getting, you know, close with people, talking with people, engaging with people. So to that end, because of it being also haunt season and, you know, this haunted house, I proposed the idea of us doing ghost stories. So the Artistic Home is a fundraiser during October. Is going to have an ensemble member read or tell a ghost story straight to camera as an individual fundraiser. So because we cannot bring our stories to your, or we cannot have you rather come to our home during a pandemic, we're going to bring our stories to your home, ghost stories. So once a week in October is a new ensemble member telling a new ghost story. There are one of the things I found like wildly interesting is like in my head, I saw a certain type of ghost story, like, and everyone of course is going to tell a certain type of ghost story. And what I'm getting back from these artists is like wildly unique and totally different than what I saw in my head. And I'm in love with it. Like the first story, Scott Westerman told his ghost story with his son. And so it was him and his 9-year-old son telling a ghost story. It was so family friendly. Like I didn't see that coming. I'm like, look at that family friendly ghost story for people. And another, you know, one of the other actresses decided to do an Edgar Allan Poe poem. Then you got a classic one coming up. I don't want to ruin. Then there's an original one. So it's fun to see these actors kind of find a way to tell a story and share a nice ghost story with our audience or with any audience, because anybody can watch it. They're all free. You can go to facebook.com/artistichome, or you can go to theartistichome.org and see all the videos there. We're asking people to donate if they can. You know, it's hard to ask people for donations in the middle of a pandemic, but if you can, help us keep the lights on so we can get back to doing theater in 2021. We will continue to do these ghost stories through the October season, and we're looking at possibly doing a radio show, maybe Miracle on 34th Street, come Christmas. So the theaters are also trying to be very creative as how we can keep entertaining and keep telling our stories during this pandemic without putting anybody at further risk. So please check out the ghost stories at the Artistic Home. Check it all out on the Facebook group. We love posting stuff about the ghost stories and about the artist who's telling it this week. So join our Facebook group on Facebook, The Artistic Home.
Nice. Do it, Jawheads. We'll put links to everything in the show notes. And I know a lot of people listening as fans of film are also fans of theater. So hopefully get some extra eyes on what you're doing, John.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Matt, before we get to trivia here, we did throw a few items into the jaw box. Let's open up that jaw box.
What's your pleasure, Mr. Cotton?
The box.
We got a box! What's in the box?
All right, Matt. First question thrown in there was, does Bill Murray have grandkids? I dug around. I didn't have conclusive evidence that he has grandkids, but he does have 6 sons. I didn't know that.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
I would assume at his age and having 6 sons, somebody probably has kids and he has grandkids. That's my guess.
Those kids are so lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt.
The second question we threw in there, Hatchet. When did it come out? John thought 2005. Very close. 2006 was the first Hatchet. Second question involved with Hatchet was, how many are there? There's 3 Hatchets, Hatchets 1, 2, and 3, but then a 4th film in the series came out in 2017, and that one's called Victor Crawley.
Okay, cool.
So there's 4 in the series. That was everything in the jaw box, Matt.
A lot of education. A lot of education packed in that box.
A lot of education.
Yeah, let's close that jaw box. Matt, before we get to trivia, just want to give the Jawheads an update from the Chicago International Film Festival, which is happening right now while we record this. The opening night film was R.J. Cutler's Belushi, which is a documentary that helps encapsulate the talent, the impact, and the struggle of John Belushi. The film's made up of audio interviews made shortly after Belushi's death. So all of these were not done at one specific time, but by journalists talking to various people that have worked with John through his career. And then those audio tapes, while they're being played, we see highlights of his career in animation also played over him. And it's actually fascinating hearing everyone talk about him, from Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Carrie Fisher, Lauren Michaels, just to give you a few. It really does a great job of encapsulating the talent of John Belushi. Recommend it. That one's coming to Showtime next month, so if you have Showtime, keep an eye open.
Sweet.
Also on the documentary, the other one that I saw that I wanted to highlight at the festival was Finding Ying Ying, which is a documentary on Ying Ying Zhang, who was a foreign exchange student attending the University of Illinois from China when she went missing in 2017. And eventually cops arrest who they believe abducted and killed Ying Ying. It's kind of like a true crime story. Obviously, it is a true crime story, so it plays out that way. The documentary does. Also very emotional as we get to know the family. Recommend checking that one out. And it's done by Kartemquin, our friend.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 foreign films to keep an eye out for. One of them from Japan is called Under the Open Sky, which tells the story of a man released from prison that has trouble adapting back into society. He does not want to go back to the life of crime, but what can he do? There's some humor mixed in here with the drama, and one of those scenes sees this guy actually trying to get his driver's license so that he can become a chauffeur. Hilarious. So it's funny, but overall a drama. Solid. Check it out, Under the Open Sky. And last but not least, the showstopper here, a film from Iran entitled There Is No Evil. This won the grand prize at the Berlin Film Festival. It's 4 stories, all concerning the death penalty. Each story stands on its own. Some are thrilling, some involve romance, but all ask the question, do you do what you're told, or do you run from those who are telling you what to do? 4 jaws on this one, Matt K. The director is actually banned, I found out, from leaving the country because he makes movies that question the government, the Iran government.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty serious subject matter for the region.
Still went ahead and was able to make this movie while he's banned from leaving the country, and the government's keeping an eye on him from like talking, about their ruling over there, and he still was able to make this latest film. There Is No Evil. So write that one down as well, Jawheads.
Wow, that's cool.
Sounds like a courageous director there.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, Matt, because we have Mr. Haunted House himself, John Laflamboy, I went with house movie trivia. Think of movies with house in the title or having to do with a famous house. John,
and again, no Hugh Laurie, correct?
No Hugh Laurie.
Okay.
John, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any questions, one rescue. Rescue me, Ryan.
I'll go ahead and go first.
All right.
Let's
they
go
start
ahead and
off
go
easy,
first.
and this one is real easy for John.
Oh, God.
In 2003, Rob Zombie directed this film, which appeared on your honorable mention list.
Yeah. I'm going to go with House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yes.
I didn't like it.
I modified the question, but I thought it was funny that it came up right before the break. 1-0, John. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, This film has been made twice. Once in 1953 and once in 2005. Paris Hilton appears in the 05 version. Name the film.
The House on Haunted Hill.
That is incorrect.
Oh,
boy, you
coming
said
for
it,
a steal.
You said it so convincingly.
I mixed them up. I screwed it up.
But that is incorrect.
It's Vincent Price. John knows it.
John, you got a chance for a steal and to take a 2-0 lead.
I do love watching Paris Hilton die. House of Wax.
Yes, that is the house we were looking for. House of Wax. 2-0, John.
I blew that one.
Question 3 is over to him. John, name the 2 movies that made up the 2007 film Grindhouse.
Oh, shit.
Grindhouse had 2 features involved.
Yeah.
One by Quentin Tarantino and one by, was it Robert Rodriguez?
It was.
Yeah, I'm not going to get this. It's not Machete.
It was one of the fake trailers.
It was one of the fake trailers. I remember the fake trailers, like, don't. This season, don't. I remember the fake trailers.
Hobo with a Shotgun was also one of the fake trailers.
Yeah. Oh, God, no. I'm just not going to get both of these. I'm not going to get both of them, so I'm just not going to waste your time.
Oof, that is incorrect, Matt. You got a chance for a steal and to climb back into this one.
I know this one, I think. I'm pretty sure it was the Rodriguez film is Planet Terror.
There it is.
And the Tarantino film is Death Proof.
That is correct, Matt K. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
I kept trying to come up with Planet Terror, and I kept going like Plan 9 from Outer Space. I'm like, no, get out of my head. I was never going to win that.
2-1, Matt K. Question 4 is over to him. He can tie it up here. Matt, talk about a scary house. Amityville Horror, 1977. What actor played the father of the family?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, man. He looks like Jim Henson. He's got the classic 70s hippie beard that's starting to transition into dad beard. Oh, man. I'm not going to come up with his name. It was Tom Hanks, actually.
Incorrect. John, you got a chance for a steal. Do you remember the actor?
Yeah, no, I got this. I got this. It's Hugh Laurie.
Whoa. Incorrect. We were looking,
Whoa. You gave me a Joey Lawrence on that.
Whoa.
we were looking for James Brolin. James Brolin.
Ah,
Any relation?
yeah.
Yes, father of.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to watch that movie with a brand new perspective. That's amazing.
So much education in this show of yours. You guys
There
are
you
really
go.
teaching and changing lives.
It is still 2-1, John, and question 5 is over to him. John, this episode may be called the Marlon Wayans episode when all said and done, because we have a Marlon Wayans question at number 5. Marlon Wayans stars in this 2013 horror comedy alongside Cedric the Entertainer.
I think it's called Haunted House.
He nailed it. It's Haunted House.
Yeah.
3-1.
Because I remember looking at it going, what a waste of a good movie title on this movie. Like, what a great title. There could have been so many cool things.
Yep.
And yet it was this. Thank you, Marlon Wayans. Again, you fake typing son of a gun.
3-1, John. Question 6 over to Matt K. Matt, before joining the Marvel Universe, this actress starred in the 2011 film Silent House. Name the actress.
I'm okay. I'm going to guess Brie Larson. That's a total stab in the dark. I have no idea.
And that was a total miss. Incorrect, Matt K. Incorrect.
Polonius dies behind the curtains.
Wow. 3-1. She was in the Marvel movies eventually. She made a movie called Silent House. John, do you know the actress?
I don't, so I'm just going to go with Scarlett Johansson.
Not a bad guess. We were looking for Elizabeth Olsen.
Okay.
It sits here 3-1, John. 2 questions left. He can win it on a walk-off right here. Question 7 is over to him. John, name the 2018 movie directed by Lars Van Trier, starring Matt Dillon and Uma Thurman. It's about a man recounting his glorious murders.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Matt Dillon, Uma Thurman, 2018.
2018.
It's about a man recounting his glorious murders.
And you've already said Silent House as a movie title.
Yep.
It's not that. I'm just going to go with Hill House.
Oof. Incorrect. Matt, chance for a steal here.
I honestly have no idea, and I really should. How does Lars Van Trier make a movie with Uma Thurman and Matt Dillon? And I don't even know what it is. What question number is this?
7.
I'll go Rescue Me Ryan on it then.
All right, here's your clue, Matt K. This house clue was built especially for you.
This house clue
was built especially for you.
It's Property Brothers.
I don't know what that means.
People are laughing, Ryan. Just trust me.
We were looking for the house Jack built. The house Jack built.
Okay.
It ends 3-1, or I at least say John won because he's up 3-1. Last question is to you, Matt K. Name the 2011 film starring Daniel Craig, Naomi Watts, and Rachel Weisz.
What year? Okay.
2011. And the
Okay.
summary is, soon after moving into their seemingly idyllic new house, a family learns of a brutal crime committed against the former residents of the house. 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig, Naomi Watts, Rachel Weisz.
The Money Pit.
House movie trivia. That is incorrect.
They can't all be hits, John. I mean, with the fake answer jokes, that one just.
I was trying to focus on the movie. Like, what was it filmed in New Orleans? Was it a bayou kind of?
That I don't know.
Magic.
That I don't know.
Was it Ruins?
Incorrect. Also, Dreamhouse. Dreamhouse was the.
Nope. I have no idea what that is.
I looked it up. It has 6% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. So I don't know if you
there
ever
you
want to
go.
check out Dreamhouse.
Was the clue for this Barbie has one of these?
That's what it was, Matt. That's what it was.
I guess the clue.
Can I get a virtual handshake here? John
Yeah.
won this one.
Virtual fist bump.
No, come on.
Thanks, man. Well done, sir. My hat.
If we were going to have a,
thank you, sir.
if we're going to have a jawbreaker, it was going to be this: age of Paris Hilton, closest to. Matt, you got to guess on how old Paris Hilton is.
Okay, yeah. So I would say Paris is. I think she's probably cracked 40. Maybe she might be a little younger. I'll say 40. The big 40. She's right on the money.
Lock him in at 40. John, you got a guess on Paris?
I was going to say 34, but I'm going to stick with 34.
We'll give that one to Matt K. 39.
39.
Yeah.
All right.
She's getting up there. Slowly
She was
but
in her
surely.
20s in the aughts, so I was trying to do the math. We both were pretty close there.
Brings us to the end of a great jaw. First and foremost, we got to thank our guest. John, it's not the same, but I still had a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the jaw.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's one of the more regular things I'm going to experience this October. Is doing Cinemajaw with you guys. There is no haunted house. There is no screaming in the background, but this has been just as much fun as it always is every October. So thanks for having me back, guys.
It's our pleasure. Our pleasure, man.
We also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you'd like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're at it, click subscribe. One extra button helps us out tremendously. And if you're feeling especially generous, join us on Patreon. We're sort of recommitting to adding extra bonus content there. We got some new swag, exciting things happening. So check us out, patreon.com/Cinemajaw.
Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt K. And keep on jawing about the movies.